News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow.
Karen, we begin at Davos, Switzerland, where President Trump has officially launched his Board of Peace initiative on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum. The president is barreling ahead with a project he says will promote geopolitical stability, even as its creation spurs rancor and reservations from key allies. In comments heard live on Bloomberg Radio, the president said today is a, quote, very exciting day in efforts to end the war in Gaza.
We have little fires that we'll put out, but they're little. They were giant, massive fires, and now they're down to little fires, so we can put them out very easily. We have 59 countries that are involved in peace in the Middle East.
President Trump was joined on stage by founding members of his board, Argentinian President Javier Milei and Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban, as well as representatives from Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, and a host of other nations.
Well, staying at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Nathan, there was a major reversal from President Trump when it comes to Greenland. The president now says he will not impose tariffs on goods from countries that oppose his effort to gain possession of the island. He says he's reached a framework of a future deal on Denmark's territory after a meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte.
It's the ultimate long-term deal, and I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else.
President Trump is not giving details of the deal, and he's not saying whether it grants the U.S. ownership of the island. Secretary General Rutte says Greenland's sovereignty was not part of the discussion.
We didn't go into those details at all. We know that the Danes are completely open to having more American presence in Greenland, and Greenland is open to that. And I think it is good that these discussions take place with the three of them, because at the end, I cannot negotiate on behalf of anyone.
In an interview with Bloomberg editor-in-chief John Micklethwaite, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said President Trump agreed that the 7 nations in the high north should work together to protect the Arctic against any adversary. And you can catch the full conversation on the Bloomberg podcast channel on YouTube.
Meanwhile, Karen, European leaders are meeting in Belgium today for an emergency summit over Greenland. Bloomberg chief Europe correspondent Oliver Crook is covering the gathering in Brussels.
We know apparently there will not be an invasion of Greenland, which is a large relief for everybody in Brussels and everybody presumably sitting in the room there in Davos. We know that the tariffs will not go in effect on February the 1st, and we know that this is apparently down to Secretary General Mark Rutte's efforts to basically talk Trump down and, as ever, to create an off-ramp for the President of the United States to make it seem like there has been a victory in this, while at the same time trying to not contravene some of the red lines here in Europe. So Trump has said about this that this basically will deliver everything the United States wants from a security standpoint, also from a raw material standpoint. In terms of the actual details of the deal, we have very little. We understand that it will apparently not impinge upon Danish sovereignty.
And Bloomberg's Oliver Crook reports Denmark has said repeatedly that Greenland's sovereignty is not up for negotiation. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says Denmark is completely open, though, to an increased U.S. presence on the island.
Nathan, President Trump's Greenland pivot helped to fuel a big rally on Wall Street. And we get the very latest with Bloomberg's John Tucker in New York. John, good morning.
Good morning, Karen. Call it a pivot or the taco trade, for Trump always chickens out. The major stock averages in the U.S. ended yesterday's session up over 1%. A UBS basket of stocks exposed to tariffs closed 2.7% higher. Shares of car makers, which are some of the most vulnerable to tariffs, helping lead gains in Europe this morning. And with geopolitics on the back burner for now, Allison McCartney at UBS sees the bull rally continuing.
This bull market that began in late 2022, the things that are motivating it and sustaining it have not changed in the last 48 hours.
Well, still, technical signals are flashing caution. Analysts warn the S&P 500 is approaching a setup that can amplify market swings. Matt Maley, the chief market strategist at Miller Tabak, says of the latest market gains, the president merely offset a short-term problem that he himself created. In New York, I'm John Tucker, Bloomberg Radio.
Nathan, we now go to a major story that we're following here in the U.S. A huge, powerful winter storm is sweeping across most of the country. We get the very latest with Bloomberg meteorologist Rob Carolyn.
There are going to be some areas that definitely see above a foot of snow. They're going to be just north of the track. It looks like those areas probably going to be around the Washington, D.C. area. They could see up to a foot of snow. We may also see a foot of snow around the Baltimore area, Trenton, New Jersey. New York City right now looking at probably a possibility of at least 6 inches of snow, if not more. And Boston now is starting to see an increased chance late in the weekend of seeing 6 or more inches of snow. It's going to stay cold across the eastern two-thirds of the country through the end of the month. The storm will be wrapping up over the central United States by the time we get into Sunday afternoon. For the eastern seaboard, it's a different story. We'll be looking for the precipitation to more or less wind down Saturday night, say around the district in Baltimore. New York City area, it's probably not going to be ending until sometime early on Monday, and it could be still snowing into the early afternoon hours in eastern New England on Monday.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moscow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.